Jadeveon Clowney is one of those names in football that always draws attention. Former #1 pick, freak athlete, and now he's fresh off a visit with the Dallas Cowboys. With Micah Parsons being traded, Clowney has a real shot to come in, carve out a role in this rotation, and bring that veteran edge to an already stacked defense. He is a player that spent the block around the NFL in his career, not living up to the draft hype, but he is still a solid player. In 2024, he recorded 46 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and he also had a 32% edge run stop win rate, which reflects how often he disrupted a run within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, either by beating his blocker, pushing him back, or forcing the runner to adjust. And he was rated the third highest in this department out of all edge rushers in 2024. And he's not a guy that impacts games week in and week out, but in my opinion, he could absolutely be a great addition to the defensive line room. So let's break him down and see what he can bring if signed by the Cowboys. So on this play here, with Clowney, he will make his money stopping the run. He has the ability to use those long arms, gain leverage, and knock the opposition off balance. He is one of those freak athletes, so if you don't get a grasp on him early, he is twitchy enough to get away, and he showed that a lot in 2024. So let's spin it. So running this play here, just studying Jadeveon Clowney, you see that he's going up against that tight end, and he is using those long arms. The thing is with him, he is one of those guys that if you don't get your hands on him right off the ball, he will find ways to be able to gain leverage quickly. So he splits right in between that wide receiver, and he was able to stop Bijan Robinson. And to have a player that is top 3 in the NFL in 2024 as far as the run on the edge, that is what's needed when it comes down to this Dallas Cowboys defense. And with his kind of talent, I always thought that he was going to be one of those elite players, but sometimes it does not work out when it comes down to some of these athletes. Now, that doesn't mean that this player can't come in here and make a difference. It's not always about getting sacks, but can you be a guy that can allow everybody on the defensive line to get better? And seeing him playing for Carolina last year, they had him lined up mostly at that left end position. Sometimes they'll have him standing up, shooting him out in coverage. I really wouldn't want to do that if he was in Dallas, but that just shows that this player is super athletic and you can be able to use him in multiple ways. But seeing him using good hand movement, getting slippery, and getting himself in position to make that key stop was great to see by Clowney. Here's a play that I really like from Jadeveon. Stabbing at that right tackle's outside arm, neutralizing it, and following up with a club and then a nice swim move. He was able to get away and get his hands on Patrick Mahomes. And it's good to see that he has an understanding of hand placement, because if he's coming to Dallas, that's exactly what Eberflus will want out of him. So let's run it. So locking on this play here, you see he's firing off the ball and gives a quick stab move to neutralize that right arm, and followed by a quick club move to completely handicap it. It's the little things when it comes down to that edge rusher position. So he uses that stab, the club, and now a quick swim move. And that right there gave him all the leverage, and there was nothing that tackle could be able to do. So he gets into position. Now it's time for him to go hunt, closing in on Mahomes and extending those arms. And it's so good to be able to see these kind of players on film, because you can't coach athleticism with those long arms. The ability to be able to bend is either you got it or you don't. So he was able to clip Mahomes' foot and get him down. But like we said in the beginning, he's not one of those players that's going to get 12 or 15 sacks. But if he can be able to get 6 or 7, guys like Marshawn Nealon, Sam Williams, if they're getting that as well, that will bring the best out of this defense. And he honestly reminds me of Zadarius Smith. I think that Clowney is more athletic, but being that age and still being able to make plays on all of these teams that both of these guys have played for is fireworks. But club moves and the ability to be able to swim against the opposition is what this player could potentially bring. So great play by Clowney, finishing and getting a sack on this one. In several of these reps from Clowney, I noticed times where he rushed without a clear plan, but his athleticism eventually took over. You'll see him engage with the tackle, then quickly knife inside and get slippery. His movements were unusual on this play, but he still managed to pressure the quarterback effectively. So let's split it. So running this play here, he's standing up rushing off the edge, locking in on 76, and runs right into him. And with some of these right tackles in the league, you cannot do that because they will quickly stonewall you. But somehow he was able to get away, contort his body, and make it hard for the right tackle to be able to get his hands on him. And that's honestly athleticism when it comes down to that. When you have a player that can be able to get slippery, they can get small, they can bend well, it makes it hard for anybody on the offensive line, especially if Clowney can be able to get the right angle. So if he is on the Cowboys, please expect the most craziest highlights when it comes down to him. Sometimes he doesn't rush with a plan and his athleticism takes over. But to be a player that's 6'5", 255 pounds, he has an explosive first step. He's about to be 32 years old, I believe. But film shows that with his body type and length, makes it tough for these offensive linemen. And with this type of play here, if you can be able to pressure the quarterback quickly and they can throw a bad ball, that can end up being a turnover and can completely change these games. This is why pressuring the quarterback is everything when it comes down to football. And with Clowney, sometimes it's not a plan in place, but he still finds a way to get there. Here's a play where we see him engaging with the tackle again, using a rip and extending his arms to force a bad throw. So like on this play here, you see he has his hand on the ground, engaging with number 76. He gives a nice rip move with his right arm and stretches his left arm to be able to affect the quarterback. And this is why a lot of these scouts and coaches, they look for players with long arms because that matters in the NFL. Another one of those things that you cannot coach. And with Jadeveon Clowney, he definitely has that working for him. And potentially playing with the Dallas Cowboys, it makes a lot of sense to me. I do not care if this player didn't pan out like they said he was going to coming out of college. But seeing on film where you're pressuring these quarterbacks, you're getting your hands on them, you're stressing out these right tackles. If you have balls that's batted like this, players like Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland will capitalize off of it. And not only that, when you trade for a player like Kenny Clark, who is also a leader on and off the field, this is how this defense can potentially make some noise. So the front office, they're going to have to get this thing rolling because this player is one of them ones. Here's another rep that shows an awkward rush by Clowney, but he was still able to make a big time play. If he does come to the Dallas Cowboys, expect these hero type of plays. But to be honest with y'all, moments like this has been a signature since his college days. So let's run it. So like on this play here, you see that he's stepping wide with that left foot, juking Pitts and getting away from him, running towards that right tackle, stepping and quickly hopping inside. Now, I don't really see edge rushers doing this because sometimes you will completely get washed out of plays. But somehow this player was able to get slippery again, get into position and lock his eyes on a quarterback, then closes in and finishes his food. And it's so good to be able to see this from this player. That's why the front office is bringing him in. He was watching everybody practice, so they got to get this deal done. But he is one of those edge rushers with that Gumby type of ability where you don't know where he's going to be at, but within a half a second, he has a good angle and enough speed to be able to wreck these plays. Part of the reason why his production never matched the hype is because he had a lot of injuries throughout his career. That's why being 31 years old, you got to be a part of a rotation, giving this player an opportunity to impact these games while he's fresh. And also being a consistent edge rusher is going to be very important. Sometimes you will see this player dominate on one drive, then he's disappearing on others. But we have to keep it real when it comes down to the JC network. We don't want to overhype this player, but he could definitely bring something to this team. So if you got this player getting 20 to 25 snaps per game, you're rushing on third downs, you're being a bully against these tight ends and these tackles in the run game, this is how this player is going to be able to get rolling. With Clowney, he does make a lot of plays and jumps off the screen from time to time, but he has a lot of missed opportunities out there. Missed tackles in space as well as missed sacks. On this play, he engages with the tackle and it looked as though he didn't have a plan at first again. Then within seconds, he knew his first move couldn't work, so he decided to use a ghost rush, putting himself in great position, but missing that sack. He's got to make these kind of plays because that will completely shift momentum in these games. So we go ahead and run it. So locking on this play here, he's going up against 76 again. You see number 76, he struck him. He got his hands inside his pecs, knocked him off balance. But with Clowney, he comes with a second plan and uses a quick ghost rush. And this is the elite bend that he has came with coming out of college. So that there is good to see, but he ends up closing in, targeting too high, and the quarterback dips it low. So just using your eyes well and not trying to play that hero ball, you got to get back to the basics when it comes down to tackling because you do not want it to be backbreaking when it comes down to the team. But it's good to see that this player could be able to get there though. Being that age now and still being able to do this is great to see. And these are some of the things that I have seen from Donovan Ezaraku, Dante Fowler. Those are two players that we're going to be utilizing all throughout this season. And hopefully Jadeveon Clowney can be another one of those guys. But you can't leave opportunities out there. You got to put yourself in position to make these kind of plays. So there are things that he's good at and a lot of things that he can be able to work on. But being around the right coaches and utilizing this player's skill set the right way is going to be extremely important. Here's another quick rep of him ripping inside, keeping his inside shoulder free, and getting into the backfield to get a half sack on Mahomes. So locking on this play here, you see that he's out wide, slamming inside, and giving a nice rip. And it's good to see that he is keeping his balance, but not only that, he's keeping that inside shoulder free. So he drives those legs, and for some reason, that right tackle let him free. Now, I don't understand why he did that. You got to play to the whistle when it comes down to football because these defenders are so quick and athletic, they will find a way to be able to ruin these plays. So he was able to get to Mahomes and get a half sack. And I honestly believe that with his skill set, you can use him on the left side, you can use him on the right side. He has that ability to be able to blitz between A and B gaps. You can honestly use him in multiple spots in the front seven. And as far as his skill set as a whole, he might not be the guy he was a decade ago, but his experience, his strength, and run defense are still valuable. On a team like the Dallas Cowboys in a limited role, that could be the perfect formula to finally get the best version of him. So the good thing is when it comes down to the Dallas Cowboys, with Clowney, he's not going to be asked to be a superstar anymore. Just stop the run, pressure these quarterbacks, and bring good energy to the rotation. So on this final play here, it's another one of those pressure plays from Clowney. He has the athletic ability to do this consistently, but this player is going to have to lock in. His smooth, elite movement off the snap of the ball gives this player great positioning to pressure the quarterback on this one. So let's run it. So locking on this play here, just studying Jadeveon Clowney. Just look at that movement right off the snap of the ball. You don't find this even with elite pass rushers. This player still has that slick movement in him. So he was able to get into position again, lock in on a quarterback, and quickly bat the ball down. And this all happened in 2024. We all know that the Panthers, they were mops on defense as well as offense. But with Jadeveon Clowney, some of these games, he was going out there and making noise. But this was a player that was labeled inconsistent. He was called a journeyman. He was absolutely written off. But for some reason, this player continues to find ways to impact games. And the film never lies. So it's going to be good to see how it all plays out with this defensive line. With players like Marshawn Nealon, Kenny Clark, Donovan Ezaraku, there are a plethora of players on this defensive line to get this thing rolling. Now, potentially adding a guy like Jadeveon Clowney can absolutely take this team over the top. But it's not always about the names on the field. They have to go out there and get that chemistry right. So it will be interesting to see if they're going to sign this player, because he is one of those ones that I think that can really make a difference in Dallas. So comment below and let me know what you guys think about Jadeveon Clowney and who else do y'all want to see me break down just like this video. So make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the way the YouTube algorithm works, if you don't hit it, you'll miss on fire updates and the best football film sessions on YouTube. All right, Cowboys Nation, talk to y'all soon. Gone.